Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are putting on our research hats,
We certainly are.
and we're diving straight into the mechanics of how knowledge is, well, how it's actually built. We're tackling two absolute cornerstones of collecting, that primary qualitative information: focus groups and observation.
And these are just essential techniques. They move us beyond simply relying on, say, secondhand reports or what's already been written.
Right. This is about the raw data.
It's about the raw data. These are the methods researchers use to get what we call live data. It's information captured directly, either from people talking or just from watching what they do.
Okay, so it's really about understanding the difference between what people say and what they actually do.
That's the core of it, yes.
So let's unpack this. Our mission today is to walk away with a really clear understanding of the defining characteristics, the critical differences, and, the unique advantages of each one.
The trade-offs, really.
The trade-offs. Exactly. Why you'd pick a focus group over observation, or vice versa. Okay, so let's start with focus groups. The basic definition is that this method collects data through group interaction on a topic that the researcher decides.
Right. And it sounds like a simple chat, but it's fundamentally a research tool. It's much more structured.
More structured than a chat, okay.
Yeah, many researchers would consider it a subtype of interviewing. And in a way, that's true. You still have a moderator. You still have questions.
But it's not just a group interview, is it? That's the core distinction I think we need to clarify.
No, absolutely not. And what's fascinating here is how the mechanism for generating the data completely shifts.
How so?
Well, the key lies in the interaction itself. So in a standard interview, the data comes from the interviewee responding directly to the moderator.
One-to-one?
Exactly one-to-one. The moderator is the primary challenger, so to speak. But in a focus group, the data relies on the participants interacting with each other.
I see.
You're not just collecting their answers to your questions. You're collecting the synergy, the disagreement, the ideas that build on each other, the stuff that happens between them.
So the moderator becomes less of an interrogator and more of a facilitator.
A facilitator, or maybe a referee. You're letting the conversation go where the participants organically take it.
And that back and forth allows the participants' own agenda to come to the front.
Precisely. The views emerge more naturally, not just as a series of responses to prepared questions.
Okay, so if that organic conversation is the goal, then I imagine setting up the group is absolutely critical.
It is. You can't just, throw 20 people in a room and hope for the best.
Let's talk about those mechanics because the source notes are pretty specific. First up, size. The sweet spot is what, 6 to 10 people?
Generally 6 to 10, yeah. Sometimes up to 12, but that range is important.
Why that specific number?
Well, if you go smaller, say 3 or 4 people, you risk the conversation just stalling. You don't get enough different opinions or that synergy we talked about. But if you go too large, like 15 or 20, it just turns into chaos. You lose the ability to get meaningful input from everyone, and it's always the same 1 or 2 voices that dominate.
6 to 10 is the balance point. Maximize interaction, minimize the chaos.
That's it. And then second, the composition. This matters deeply. The notes specify that focus groups work better with homogeneous samples.
Meaning people who share similar backgrounds or experiences related to the topic.
Yes, because if you mix highly disparate groups, you can get power dynamics that they overwhelm the discussion.
That makes a lot of sense. If you have, say, a CEO in a room with entry-level employees talking about company culture, you're not going to get honest answers.
Exactly. One dominant viewpoint can silence or intimidate the others, and you fail to capture those organic themes you were looking for.
And finally, the notes mention running several parallel focus groups. You don't just do one.
You can't. One session just gives you one set of group dynamics. That could be an outlier. Running multiple groups helps you validate the themes. You see if the same ideas keep popping up.
It's basically quality control.
It is. It tells you if what you found is unique to that one group's personality or if it's something more broadly reflective.
Okay, so what are the big advantages here? Why go to all this effort? What do focus groups give researchers that nothing else really can?
Their major utility is in generating ideas for further study. They're fantastic for developing themes and topics for, say, a much bigger questionnaire or for one-on-one interviews later on.
So it's like a first step.
A very powerful first step. It helps you generate hypotheses that come directly from the group's insights, and you can also use them to get feedback on previous studies.
It's like a research accelerator. Instead of guessing what questions to ask on a huge national survey, You let a small targeted group tell you what's actually relevant first.
You're using that group synergy to build better tools. It's an incredible way to get depth right at the start of a research project.
Okay, so we've covered what people say in a group, but what if we need to know what they actually do? That brings us to our second method.
Which brings us to observation. And this is where it gets, for me, really interesting. This method gives the researcher the chance to gather, quote, live data from the situations.
So we're out of the discussion room and into the real world.
Literally.
Into the action.
Observation is basically, it's spy work for researchers, isn't it? It's based on seeing what actually happens, not just relying on what people tell you they do.
And that distinction is crucial. It's the core philosophy. People are often, frankly, poor reporters of their own behavior.
How so?
Well, sometimes it's intentional, social desirability bias, wanting to look good, but often it's just unintentional. We simply don't pay that much attention to our own habits.
So if you ask me how often I eat vegetables,
You might overestimate. But if I observe what goes into your grocery cart for a month, I get a much more objective truth.
right. Observation lets researchers see things that people might miss, or even things they might not want to talk about in an interview. Exactly. But you can't just wander in and start watching. If you just open a notebook and say, I'm observing now, your data will be subjective chaos.
So you need a plan.
You need a system. The researcher has to provide an observation framework.
A framework. What does that mean in practice?
Think of it as a really clear checklist or a systematic coding system. It serves three main purposes. First, it makes sure that every observer is alert to the exact same activities.
It stops you from just noting whatever shiny thing catches your eye that day.
It does. Second, it lets you record the data systematically. You're not writing long paragraphs. You're ticking boxes, coding specific predefined behaviors.
And the third purpose.
And this is maybe the most critical one. It produces data that is consistent and comparable. This is huge if you have multiple observers. If two different people use the same framework and come to similar conclusions, you know your data is robust.
Okay, so the framework is the key to making observation a science, not just people watching.
100%.
So let's talk about the unique benefits. What are we getting from observation that a focus group, no matter how dynamic, just can't provide?
First and most obviously, you get to see what people do directly. It eliminates that reliance on potentially inaccurate self-reporting. It's like the truth serum of data collection.
Okay, what else?
Second, it gives you incredibly rich, descriptive, contextual information. The setting matters so much.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If you're studying how people use a new park bench, asking them in a focus group tells you one thing, but observing where they sit, when they use it, and who they're with, that tells you everything about its actual functional success.
Context is king.
For observation, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
The framework captures the environment alongside the behavior.
And I'd imagine this focus on action helps neutralize some other research hazards, too.
It does. By focusing strictly on verifiable action, it gets rid of, or at least reduces, the bias and subjectivity from the people being observed. They can't really shade the truth if you're just watching the outcome.
And what about the observer's bias?
A solid framework helps with that as well. Since everyone is looking for the same coded actions, it reduces individual interpretation. And, just practically speaking, observation can be a really fast way to collect a lot of data, especially if the behavior you're studying is frequent.
That's a really powerful pairing of methods we've just unpacked. On one hand, focus groups generate themes and hypotheses from that rich social interaction.
Tapping into collective understanding.
And on the other hand, observation captures authentic, verifiable behavior and all that essential context, completely bypassing any self-report issues.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, you now have two very robust toolkits for collecting data, but a tool is only useful if you apply it to the right thing.
So it's not just how you collect the data.
Is who you're collecting it from. This leads us directly to the next critical step in any research project, sampling.
That's the crucial bridge. It makes perfect sense. If a focus group needs a homogeneous sample to work well, or if observation needs a specific context to be relevant,
then the selection process, the sampling, becomes the foundation that all your insights rest on.
So the method of collection is only as good as the group you apply it to.
Precisely. We could design the most flawless, unbiased observation framework in the world, but if we only use it to watch a group of university students and then try to say, our findings apply to the entire country?
The research fails. instantly.
Instantly.
And our source notes actually lay out what comes next, and it's all about that selection process. Researchers need to understand the meaning of sampling, the functions of population versus a sample, and all the different sampling methods. Probability, non-probability, all of it.
And it all leads to this key question.
Hmm.
What are the characteristics of a good sample?
Because a bad sample invalidates even the most brilliant focus group findings. It's the weak link that can break the whole chain.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've seen how crucial the design of the tool is, whether it's structuring a group to harness that synergy or crafting a consistent framework for observation. But this raises a really important question. If the goal of the tool is to minimize human bias observation, gets rid of the subject's bias, focus groups manage discussion bias, how does the researcher then make sure that the sample they choose doesn't accidentally introduce an even bigger, more fundamental bias?
A bias that could undercut the entire project.
And completely invalidate the findings you get from these powerful methods. That's the challenge.
That relationship between the design of the tool and the quality of the sample, that's the key to rigorous research. It's what separates a good finding from one that just can't be trusted. Keep exploring that intersection of methodology and selection as you move forward. Until next time, keep digging deep.